Well, good evening, everyone. Today is July the 29th, the last Wednesday night in July. And the clock says 7 o'clock. Actually, it's 7:01. I'm late by a minute. 7 o'clock, and it's time for us to study the Bible. I hope you're ready to spend a couple of minutes and to think about what we've been reading and discussing at homes in our families. This past week, we have looked at 1 Samuel chapters 13 through 15, and we're still looking at King Saul. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to give you a minute and kind of write down what you can see on the board. I'm going to try and get away. Get out of the way, hit a little bit over here. How about now? How about a little bit of that? Let you draw a little Bowman up here. It's Robin Hood if you can't see. Draw your Robin Hood and write down some of the things. Up here I have King Saul, then 1, 2, 3. Robin Hood reasoning. The blank, justify the blank. No blank can turn something blank into something blank. And then drawing the arrow of the minutes. Just kind of sketch out some of this. We're going to work through it here in a minute if you want to take a second. I want to begin with just saying thank you to a couple people. You know, we've been doing this now in these Zoom gospel meetings, these Zoom Bible classes. We've been doing this for about 5 months now. And there's been some people who've made this so helpful, who've gone above and beyond to help Ricky and I in our teaching. And so let me give a couple thank yous before we begin. In fact, if you're home and you got some time, maybe before school begins, you've got some opportunities. These would be some people who I think deserve a good thank you card for all that they've done. Eric Peterson is on the top of the list. Eric has helped us download this program so where we can turn it on and be live and teaching tonight. Eric has just every week he has been helping us go live and produce these videos. Eric does such a tremendous job, and so thank you, Eric, for all that you've done. And Richard Boughton has done an incredible job, not just in our services on Sundays, but he's helped us on Wednesday nights as well. And Richard's kind of my go-to guy on technology. Richard and Eric, they always make sure that I have what I need and are just so active in helping us continue to teach both publicly and privately. So thank you, Richard, for all that you have done. I want to say tonight, thank you to Mr. Ron Ritchie. He's got me this nice tripod that I can put my whiteboard on. Ron has always been a great encouragement, and he offered this to our service for however long we'll be doing these Zoom classes. And so thank you, Mr. Ron, for letting me have this nice setup for tonight. And then I want to say thank you to my my coworker and my mentor, to Ricky. You know, this is such a different way of teaching. We love to teach when we can see one another and to look at each other face to face. And Ricky has just jumped into this electronic teaching so well. He does such a great job. And so I just want to thank him for his great work that he's done over the past 5 months and how he's just made the teaching come alive at home. He and Jody and their graphics and just the good thoughts he's been sharing with us every week. He helps me be better, and that's why I love working with him. Well, here's what we're going to do tonight. We need to talk about King Saul and how things started to change. They started to unravel for King Saul. You know, Saul is the first of the kings, but first does not always mean best. And we see that here. We see that in these chapters, if you were able to read them at home. Saul, in this section, makes a lot of excuses. Now, excuses are not always necessarily bad things. You know, sometimes a person makes an excuse or gives an excuse just to explain the situation. So if you arrive late to an appointment, late to school, and they say, well, why are you late? You can say, well, you know, we were late because, and you state the reason. We were late because we had a flat tire. We were late because there was a lot of traffic. And so sometimes excuses are the same as just explaining the situation. Here's what happened, and so I'm going to tell you why things are the way they are. Sometimes excuses are given to get out of doing things you know you need to do. That's Moses in the book of Exodus chapter 3. Remember, God says, I want to send you to Pharaoh. And he says, I can't. I don't know who you are. I don't know your name. I don't really know you. I'm not good at speaking. They're not going to listen to me. He just gave a lot of excuses. And sometimes we do that too. We give excuses as to why we feel like we can't do something. I'm too tired. I didn't get enough sleep. I'm not good at this. We try and get out of responsibility sometimes by using excuses. Then there's one more. There's one more way we can use excuses, and that is to get out of the consequences of our choices. And that's what we see with King Saul. King Saul has a lot of excuses for the way or for why he has done what he has done in these chapters. And so he tries to get out of the trouble that he has brought upon himself. But what we'll see is that it doesn't work. I want to start here in the very middle. Why I have a Robin Hood on our board. Do you remember the story of Robin Hood? Robin Hood is a story about, well, the general story is about a man who goes and robs from this evil king. And he takes the riches from this evil king and he gives it to the poor. The evil king attacks the land of Nottingham really, really strictly, really strongly. And so Robin Hood comes, he and his merry men, and they take from the rich and they give it back to the poor. And so it makes a good movie. Many movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: there are some people who think this way, who use the Robin Hood mentality to justify, to explain why some decisions are okay. That's what the Robin Hood reasoning is. Robin Hood reasoning is the ends justify the means. You know what that means? In terms of Robin Hood, it's okay if I steal. I mean, normally, stealing would be really wrong, but it's okay if I steal so long as I give that to the poor, so long as I do something good with what I've stolen. That's the Robin Hood mentality. The ends justify the means. It's okay if I steal. It's okay if I do something bad, so long as I do something good with it. Problem is, life is not a Disney movie or a BBC special, okay? I don't know if you can see that. I'm drawing an X. It doesn't work. This mentality is not true, and it's not how God sees life. I want to show this here. This is what Saul was thinking and reasoning, starting in 1 Samuel chapter 13. In 1 Samuel 13, we're going to write three situations from the 3 chapters, 13, 14, and 15. Let's see what happened with Saul and how he got to his reasoning. It starts in chapter 13. The Philistines are coming, and they are preparing for this battle against Israel, and it's going to be a tough battle. And it's going to be a battle where they are going to need some divine help, some help from God. And so they know before they start the battle, they want to offer the sacrifice to God, to get God's help and his strength on their behalf. Well, the law teaches the only person who can offer a sacrifice, who can offer this offering for the people, has to be a priest. They have to be from the Levites. Well, so they're waiting for Samuel. Samuel is a priest. Samuel is the right person to offer this offering according to the law of God, where it says in 1 Samuel 13 verse 8, he waited 7 days, the time appointed by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal. And the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, bring the burnt offering here to me and the peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offerings. As soon as he had finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. Saul went out to meet him and greet him. And Samuel says, what have you done? Saul said, when I saw that the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines had mustered at Michmash, now the Philistines will come down against me, I said, at Gilgal. And I have not sought favor from the Lord. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offering. Look at verse 13. Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. What happened? Well, Saul offered a sacrifice. I'm going to put offered sacrifice. Sacrifice. Why? It wasn't his right to do so. He's not a priest. He's not from the tribe of Levi. How did he think he could do this? Why did he think he could do this? Well, it's okay if I break God's law in offering the sacrifices because Samuel's not here. Samuel's not here. He's late, and the battle is about to begin. Someone has to offer this offering, and so it's okay if I break the law because Samuel wasn't here. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, and I'm just trying to save Israel. The ends justify the means. That's not what Samuel said. Samuel said, you did wrong. You did not obey the Lord. The right thing would have been to wait and to pray and to wait on Samuel, more importantly, to wait on the Lord. Saul did not do so. Well, then comes chapter 14. Chapter 14, there's again battle with the Philistines. We're going to see the Philistines all through the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel. Well, the Philistines are again battling with Israel. And in this chapter, we read about Saul's son, Jonathan. Jonathan is out, and Jonathan is this bold, courageous warrior. He and his armor bearer find this group of Philistines, and even though they're outnumbered, they go take them all on. You see in verse 12 of chapter 14, the men of the garrison hailed Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, come on up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come up after me, for the Lord has given them into the hands of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up on his hands and feet, and his armor bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer killed them after him. Here they are outnumbered, but it didn't matter. Jonathan had immense faith and trust in God. Well, here's what happens. So this battle's taking place. Jonathan is very successful in the battle. Well, in verse 24, the men have been fighting all day long. It says, the men of Israel had been hard pressed that day. So Saul had laid an oath on the people, saying, cursed be the man who eats food until it's evening, and I am avenged on my enemies. So none of the people had tasted food. Why? You ever wondered that? The men are tired. The men are hungry. They've been fighting all day long. And instead of saying, okay, guys, I know you're tired. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. Let's go get a meal. Let's rest for a minute. We'll regain our strength, and then we'll go back with full force, and we'll go get them. No. Saul and his pride and his arrogance wants to do things his way. He wants it to seem like he has won this day and won the victory. No one's going to eat until I have avenged myself on my enemies. It's not that the Lord has given us victory over his enemies. Nope. I'm Saul, and we don't celebrate until I say so, until I've beaten all the enemies. Well, here's the problem. Jonathan was not there. Jonathan didn't hear this oath, this vow that Saul gave. And so while Jonathan is out with his armor bearer, he's hungry, and so he, along the way, finds some honey and eats some honey. Well, according to what Saul says, Jonathan now deserves to die. Now, here's the thing. We just read something like this, didn't we, a couple weeks ago? About someone who made a vow really foolishly about the first thing that came out of his house was to be devoted to the Lord. Do you remember that with Jephthah, the judge? Well, here it's the same story, but it's a different ending. Because Jonathan comes back and he has to confess to his father what has happened. And so it says in verse 43, Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what you've done. And Jonathan told him, I tasted a little honey with the tip of the staff that was in my hand. Here I am. I will die. You see the heart of Jonathan. He's willing to uphold his father's foolish oath by offering his life. He's not about to cause a conflict in Israel or to cause conflict between his father and God. Well, how does Saul respond? Look at verse 44. Saul said, God do so to me and more also. You shall surely die, Jonathan. Isn't that a great father? You eaten, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to put you to death. You broke my vow. Well, the great thing is the people they weren't going to have it. They didn't allow it. That's the thing. The people, out of fear, followed Saul. But they rallied behind Jonathan. And so the second foolish thing that Saul does is he makes this, I'm going to put rash vow. This rash vow about eating after the battle, not eating until the battle has been won. And you wonder why he made this thinking. Why he reasoned this way. Why make the vow? And perhaps what he was thinking is it's okay to not let the men eat because I want them to see me as the hero. And so it's okay to not let these men get what they deserve, a good rest, a good meal to really regain their strength. No, I'm going to withhold the good that I owe to them because in the end they're going to see what an awesome, powerful, mighty, victorious king I am. Well, that didn't happen anyway. No, the people rallied behind Jonathan, not Saul. And because the people pleaded with Saul, he did not put Jonathan to death. But here's the last one then. Okay, chapter 15, our last chapter for this week. God comes to Saul, and he has a very simple command. Chapter 15 and verse 3. He says, "Go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but both kill man and woman, child and infant, ox, sheep, cattle, and donkey." Do you hear what he's saying? He said, if there's anything that's alive within the Amalekites, I want you to destroy it. Nothing is coming out of their life. Every person, every animal, every dog, every tick, every flea, you're killing it all. I don't want anything spared. The reason is God is punishing the Amalekites for the way that they mistreated his people long ago. This takes us all the way back to the book of Exodus. Well, it seems simple. It's a pretty easy command. Go in and just destroy. You just keep swinging and swinging and shooting those arrows until everyone is dead. You would think it'd be easy. Here's what happens. Verse 9. Saul and the people spared Agag, that's the king, and the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fatted calves and the lambs and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. All that was despised and worthless they devoted to destruction. Oh, Saul. That's what you say. You sigh, you say, "Oh, Saul, sparing the Amalekites." Okay. Sparing Amalekites. Why? Why did he spare them? Now, there's some ways in which we could look at this and think what Saul must have been thinking, right? There's some things, it's like, oh, if you have this good sheep and this good oxen, I don't want to kill that. We could use that practically. We could use it for meat, or we could use it for wool, or it'd be good to sell and to trade. I'll kill the lame ones, I'll kill the sick ones, but let's not destroy the good ones. Those are too valuable. I'm not really sure what was running through Saul's head in the moment, but when Samuel the prophet shows up, Saul comes out and he's beating his chest and he's saying, "Hey, Samuel, we just had a great victory. We obeyed the Lord." And Samuel says, "Really? You obeyed everything God said? Because why am I hearing some sheep right now? Why am I hearing the bleating of some sheep, the baaing of some sheep? Why am I seeing some cows that weren't here before? Why do I see a king from Amalek still alive right here?" Here's what happens. Here's what Saul says. Ready? We're in chapter 15. We're looking down in verse 15. He says, Saul says, "They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen, the sacrifice of the Lord your God, and the rest we have devoted to destruction." Okay, now number one. Here's foolish King Saul. He's not claiming any of his decisions as his own. The people did it. I didn't do it. The people did it. But then did you hear the reason? The reason they disobeyed, the reason they spared some of the animals was to worship God. See, it makes it okay. It makes not obeying okay. It's all right that we didn't obey. It's okay that we didn't kill all the animals because we kept them so we could sacrifice them and worship to God. He says the same thing down in verse 20. He says, verse 20 of our context, Saul said to Samuel, he says, notice, "I have obeyed the voice of the Lord. I have gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me. I brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and have devoted the Amalekites to destruction. But the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the best of the things devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal." It's okay. It's okay we disobeyed. It's okay we didn't destroy them because we're going to use them in worship. Do you see it? Did you see the thinking, the reasoning here? It's okay if I do some things that are wrong just so long as I do something good with it or bring something good out of it. It might kind of look like this. I'm going to draw it up here. If you have your arrow, draw an arrow from Saul above Robin Hood and over, say, many today is what's over here. Here's what it kind of looks like. I'm going to draw the construction of the phrase, and let's kind of see what it might look like today. Because I think there's a lot today, many today, who think this way and reason out of Robin Hood's mentality, this Robin Hood mentality. It kind of looks like this. It's okay if I blank so long as I blank. That's what it looks like. It's okay if I fill in the blank, and that's sin, disobey. If I do something down here, that's good. If it ends up in something good. If it results in something good. Okay, now here's some examples of what that looks like. I'm going to switch to blue. My black's kind of dying out here. Here's number one. Ready? It's okay. It's okay. Let's use this example right in the middle of the board. It's okay if I steal, right? It's okay if I take things, so long as I do something good with it, right? Let's put share. It's okay if I steal, if I take someone's money, if I steal from the grocery store, if I steal from a Target, take some things. It's okay if I steal, just so long as I take the things I've stolen and I do something good with it. I share it. Is that okay? Because God told us in the book of Ephesians chapter 4 that we're not going to steal, but we're going to work with our hands. That's not okay. That's not okay. That's not true. Stealing is a sin. The ends, doing something good with what I've stolen, doesn't change the fact that I've done wrong and I've disobeyed God. Well, here's another one. It's okay if I lie, so long as I don't hurt feelings. Have you been there before? I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I don't want to make them sad or angry. And so it's okay if I lie. It's okay if I don't tell them the whole truth because I want to spare their feelings. And so it's okay that I have lied, not told the truth, because I want them to be happy, to be joyful. Is that okay? Is that what God says? No. We are told all through the Bible that lying is wrong. Lying is a sin. Again, in Ephesians 4, that we don't speak the lie, we speak the truth in love. Here's another one. It's okay if I cheat. School's coming back. We got school in session almost soon. It's okay if I cheat, just so long as I please my parents. Oh, for a lot of parents, what they want is they want us to do our best, and that's going to mean that we're going to do our best to get the best grades possible. Well, you know that if we go to school and we go to a test and we didn't really study for it, we didn't prepare for it, and we come back with bad grades, they're going to be disappointed. And so it's okay if I cheat off of a neighbor or a friend, because I want my parents to be pleased. I don't want them to be disappointed. Is that true? No, that's the same with lying. That's the same with lying. Lying and cheating and stealing, they're all the same. You're stealing answers. You're lying about what the work you're turning in. That's not okay. That's not okay. Doing something good, a good result, does not make the wrong that to get you there okay. I'm going to say it a little clearer here in a minute. I didn't come out very clear. I'm going to say that with more clarity here in just a moment. Let me talk a little bit to mom and dad here. I got mom and dad. I got some older people listening tonight. Can I give one that's right going on right now in the mainstream of the world, especially if you're on social media? It's all right if I may be rude, crude, pointed in what I'm saying, so long as I'm saying the truth. I mean, look, I'm not holding anything back. I'm just telling the truth. But it may be rude, it may be insensitive, it may be very crude, the things I'm saying. But hey, I'm telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling it as it is. Really? Because 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5 says that love is not rude. It does not act unbecomingly. So it's okay to be rude. It's okay to be mean and to bully someone, so long as the things I'm bullying about or mean about is true. I don't think so. No. And I think for many today, when we talk about trying to get our college age and in that line of thought, the 18 to 20s to 30s, to understand that when we talk about things like worship and how we worship, we can't just put worshiping in vain. It's okay if I worship in a way that's not according to the book, so long as I have the right heart, right? I mean, it's okay if we do something and it's not in the book. It's not in the book. It's okay if we bring in instruments. It's okay if we let women get up and preach. It's okay if we do things in worship that's not according to the book because we're doing it to God. We're giving it to God. We're offering it to God. And how could God say no? We're not stealing. We're not cheating. We're not murdering anyone. So how could you say that this offering of worship, this style of worship, this means of worship is wrong when we're doing it for God? Well, how could God say that Saul and Israel keeping the sheep in order to worship him was wrong? Because he did. Down in verse 22, when Saul has said all that he has, Samuel's ready to speak. And he says, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and in sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Here we go. We need to hear these words. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifices. The ends do not justify the means. This good is ultimately not good if the path to get there is a path of sin. I'm going to put it here. You see right here on underneath. No good can turn something wrong into something right. Do we understand that? No good result, no good outcome could ever turn something that is wrong into something right. And we've got to understand that the ends don't justify the means. It doesn't matter if this is an ultimate good, an amazing good, helping others, pleasing others, to worship God. If that good is accomplished through doing something wrong, it's ultimately not a good worth pursuing. Not that way. Not through that path. I think I'll write down here we have our 1 Samuel. I'm going to put the verse reference, and I think you can refer back to it if you want to. 1 Samuel chapter 15 and we were looking down in verse 22. But I'm also going to put down here, I like Romans chapter 12 and verse 21, which says, so we don't overcome evil with evil, we overcome evil with good. And that's the problem. Sometimes we say, it's okay. It's okay for me to be rude or bombastic. It's okay for me to do certain things so long as I stand for the truth, so long as I spare people's feelings. It's okay. We're overcoming evil. Listen, when we try and overcome evil with evil, we are fighting Satan's battle with his own weapons. We don't overcome evil with evil. We overcome evil with good. Hear it again. No good can turn something wrong into something right. Stealing is always stealing, period. And it is sin, and it is wrong, and it is not to be done. Lying is always lying. Cheating is always cheating. Being rude and crude and mean and unkind are always those wrong attitudes. And there's so much more we could put up here. So many more things we could put up here. It's okay if I'm not forgiving. It's okay if I don't forgive someone because I'm just sparing my family. I'm just protecting my family. Well, I don't think you can get there. I don't think that's right reasoning. Here's what Saul should have done. And here's how we're going to end. I'm kind of out of space. So I'm coming over here. I'm going to draw some happy trees, some happy conclusions. I'm going to erase a little bit. Ready? How do we fix this? How do we fix Saul's mentality? Well, I see three things. We're calling it what to do. Ready? What to do. When you're like Saul and you're in a situation like 1 Samuel 13, 14, or 15, and maybe you're pressed with making a decision, and maybe you made a bad decision, a bad choice. What do? How do you make things right? Well, here's number one. Number one is you own up to it. One, own it. If you've made a bad choice, don't blame someone else. Don't try and offer an excuse. Here's why I did it. Here's why. I was bullied. I was pushed or pressured. It's not my fault. It was my brother's fault. It's my brother. It was my sister's. It was someone else's. Nope. If you've made a bad choice, if you've chosen to sin, you've got to own it. Owning means that you confess it. I did this. I did this choice. It is my fault. Don't hide it. Don't try and blame it away. Because here's the thing, passing blame, offering excuses, it doesn't take away any of the consequences from our choices. They're still there. It only prolongs the inevitable. It only puts off what's going to come. Saul blamed the people. Saul tried to excuse it. Well, the reason I offered a sacrifice is because Samuel wasn't there. The reason I offered this rash vow, well, he didn't say this, but the reason was because he was full of pride and arrogance. And the reason that he spared the Amalekites, well, because they wanted to worship God. No. The right thing is saying, you're right. You're right. I had no right to offer that sacrifice. I had no right to keep the king alive and to spare the best of the auction. Own it. Own up to it. Don't hide it. Don't excuse it away. Don't blame it on others. If you've made a bad decision, if you've made a bad choice, just own up to it. Man, I hate I did. I'm sorry I did. Here's number 2. Seek forgiveness. Seek forgiveness. Let me get out of the way there. Seek forgiveness first and foremost from God. First and most importantly from God. God, I broke your law. I broke your rules. It might be that I broke my parents' rules, and in breaking my parents' rules, I broke your rule about honoring and listening to my parents. It might be that I broke a rule at school. It might be that I did something over here to try and make someone feel better, but I went about it the wrong way. And God, I am seeking forgiveness. I'm coming to you, confessing my wrong and asking and pleading for your grace. Now, if you've not been baptized, if you're not a Christian, then that's the first step. That's the first step, is giving your life to Him and walking with Christ and having your sins washed away and beginning that journey with Him. But if you are a Christian, as John was saying in 1 John 1 and verse 9, if we confess our sins, He's faithful to forgive us. So it starts there. It starts with God. But then there may be some people along the way that I need to seek forgiveness from. Saul needed to seek forgiveness from God and from his son in chapter 14. From Samuel in chapter 13. He hurt a lot of people along the way, and there's a lot of people he needed to make things right with. It's a hard path when you fall in to make things right, but they're never going to get better until you take that first step and ask for forgiveness. Asking for forgiveness also means that you start to do the right things. That means instead of lying, you're going to tell the truth. Instead of cheating, you're going to take that test. And if you didn't prepare, if you weren't ready for it, the answer's going to show. But you do your work and you do an honest work. And instead of being rude, you ask forgiveness from those who've been rude to. And if you're going to speak the truth, make sure it's out of love and kindness. That's what we're talking about, is taking the right step. You were doing what was wrong, now you're going to start doing what's right. And then here's number 3, and I think this is important for all of us today. You ready? And that is that you learn. You learn from your mistakes. That's what I wonder about Saul. Is that why didn't he learn? You got chapter 13, and he did something so rash. He was pushed in the heat of the moment, and he made a bad choice. He made a bad decision. But instead of learning from it and saying, in my mind, I thought I was doing the right thing, but it's obvious to God that obeying Him is far better than winning this battle. Obeying Him is far better than keeping the soldiers here in place, and I needed to put greater trust in Him. Do you think that might have made a difference when it came to chapter 14 or 15, especially chapter 15, of learning about the priority of obeying God and what that looks like in your life? Do you think that might have made a difference? That's the problem, is that when we make mistakes and we make these poor decisions, that we don't learn from them, and we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's kind of like the kid or the guy who walks up to the stove, and the stove is on and it's red. Have you seen it? Your mom and dad have the stove on and it's red if you have an electric one, or the flames up if you have the gas stove. And so he goes up and he touches it. Ooh, ooh, it's hot. Then he goes and touches it again. Ooh, ooh, man, my fingers hurt. And he goes again. Oh, it's hot. And he goes, at some point, he's going to have to learn, if I keep touching this stove, I'm going to get burned. I'm going to get hurt. But the more he keeps touching and the more he keeps reaching, the more damage is going to be done to his hands. That's all of us. That's all of us. At some point, we're going to have to learn. I can't keep doing these things. I can't keep making the same mistakes, falling into the same trap, walking down the same path. So maybe take a look over there tonight and think about it. Is there something I've allowed in my life and I've reasoned it, saying it's okay. It's okay if I do these things. It's okay if I act this way, say these words, behave this way, do certain things because of look at the end, whatever end I'm trying to achieve. Have I let some things in my life that don't belong? Have I made some choices that I need to stop and make right? Well, think about it and learn. Learn what led you there in the first place. Was it a friend who encouraged you? Did you get caught up in maybe something, maybe a video from the world or something that made you think that it was okay? What did you learn from it? Did it end up with the good you were thinking, or was it all bad? And realize, was it worth hurting God and breaking God's heart? No, you gotta learn. So that the next time that you're in the same situation and you have to choose and you have to make a choice, you're not going to choose a path. You're not going to make a decision that's going to dishonor and hurt the heart of God. Because here's the thing, you know the beautiful thing? Honoring God requires no justification, no reasoning. You don't have to explain away honoring God. There's no excuses for a life lived with God because you're doing the right thing, the God honoring thing. You don't have to try and hide it. You don't try and have to explain it away to someone else. No, it's life the way it's meant to be, life the way God designed it to be. Don't don't get caught up in the fairy tale thinking that some things are okay, some sins, some disobediences are okay, just so long as you do something good with it. No, that's not what the Bible teaches. That's not what God teaches. Sin is always sin. Wrong is always wrong, no matter what result it could possibly bring. So, think about this tonight. Look in your life. Have I allowed some things in my life that I need to get out? Maybe there's some things that I need to stop. I need to change. I need to seek forgiveness. And I need to do some learning to make sure that I'm doing things in a way every day that honors my King. Well, that's all I have for tonight. I hope these things are helpful and encouraging to you. Thank you for spending a minute and learning with me. I'm looking forward to Sunday, whether if you are going to be there in person or if you're going to be worshiping at home through the screen. Know that you are greatly loved. So thankful that we are a family of believers. And I hope that the days in between here and there, are great days. That you have some wonderful days ahead. Begin every day just walking with God, making some great decisions. Nothing better comes from it. Say your prayers tonight. Give your families a hug. I look forward to seeing you again soon.